I started 3 seconds early, just so you can look at her face. Just look at it. Look at it. Oh, I'm not making fun of the way she looks. I'm making fun of her demonic spirit. Just look at it for 3 more seconds before you hear the verbal diarrhea come out of that mouth. Oh, and by the way, wait for her smile to drop like the beat of a club song. Oh.
What do you make of your security detail arresting David Menzies?
So,
Oh, I already want to vomit.
I want to start with what was important about Monday.
U.S. Americans
And
are having
what
trouble
was important
finding.
about Monday, January 8th,
Monday, January.
was that
More
was
specific.
the 4th anniversary of a date that I think forever needs to be marked and circled in black on the calendar of all Canadians. It was a tragedy for Canada. Canadians were criminally murdered, and I want
If this were a deposition and I were the lawyer, I would stop the witness right now and I said, I would have, and I've done this all the time. It's actually kind of a decent tactic. I say, stop. What was the question I just asked you? 9 out of 10 times, they, at this point into their idiotic rambling, will not even remember the question that was asked. What was the question that you were just asked, Madam Fräulein Freelander? What was it? Freeland, not Freelander. What do you say about your security detail falsely arresting and assaulting David Menzies? So let me just go on for a minute about exploiting and milking the victims of, call it a terrorist attack, or at the very least, the deliberate downing of a commercial airliner. Let me just go ahead and milk those victims to distract from the question, and then I'll get to your question soon.
want to say to the families and loved ones of the people who were murdered that Canada remembers, Canada will not forget.
Canada remembers and Canada will not forget. And it took Justin Trudeau about a week to finally refer to it as a plane that was taken down and not a plane that crashed. At first he was saying it's a plane crash. Sorry, planes getting shot out of the sky is not a crash. It's a terrorist attack, more likely. Now she can admit it because now she gets the virtue points for invoking the victims of that downing of the, was it the Ukrainian flight or the Iranian flight? I forget. Now they can talk about it instead of answering the very straightforward question that she was asked to begin with.
And that's why I was in Richmond Hill. Marcy was there too, to show that this is a Canadian tragedy, that Canada remembers and Canada will not forget.
Canada remembers and Canada will not forget. All right, you're about as smart as Kamala Harris, Chrystia Freeland. By the way, we're now a minute into the question?
The incident, as you guys know very well, Canada is a rule of law country.
Oh yeah, no, it's not. It's a tyranny. Rule of law, extrajudicial freezing of bank accounts with no due process and no judicial oversight. Not a rule of law anymore. Chrystia Freeland, Fräulein Freeland.
Canada is a democracy.
Not anymore.
Operational decisions about law enforcement are taken by the police of jurisdiction.
Oh, yeah.
Quite appropriately, political elected officials have no role in the taking of those decisions.
Bullshit.
And that's why I don't have any further comment.
Oh, I don't have that. That took me a minute to like. Look at her face. Just look at this. By the way, look at it with the volume down. What did you just say? She's demonic. I've used that word twice today, and for good reason. Everybody, good morning. Good morning. I had a Twitter space yesterday, very entertaining Twitter space, which I'm going to put together a short vlog later today, a car vlog. I'm going to go sit in the car, listen to the birds chirp, and highlight the fact that I did a 2-hour, or participated for 2 hours in a Twitter space with scientists, doctors, and PhDs who expose themselves for what they are, as relates to jab pushing, as I've said, demons who refuse. I asked the 3 of them at the end, how many jabs have you had? One confirmed 0. The other one refused to answer. And then after the stream, one of the doctors went to Twitter to confirm that he got myocarditis from his first jab. These are the people pushing this on other people and calling people like me, who subjected myself to 2 shots, anti-vaxxers. They can't go to hell fast enough. Okay. Will Chamberlain is in the backdrop, listening to me rant like a lunatic. Everybody share the link because it's super short notice. Or at least I set this up with super short notice. Will Chamberlain has a very similar name to Wilt Chamberlain. So when I was online doing my research, I'm like, holy crap, he played basketball. And then I realized, nope, I autocorrect went to Wilt Chamberlain, not Will Chamberlain. And then the internet, at least Google searches, not much on Will Chamberlain. I was watching some podcasts, and it seems that for whatever the reason lately, Will's been doing the rounds debating Dave Smith, or at least having discussions on the Israeli-Palestine conflict. I pulled up a podcast with him and Michael Malice from 2019. I know some of you watching are already predisposed to not like him or make fun of him. He's a very smart guy. I happen to think he might be a little out in left field with some other stuff. We're going to talk about it. We've had a Twitter beef, and I said, look, instead of misunderstanding back and forth on Twitter, let's just have a discussion in real life. And he's in the backdrop. Wilt Chamberlain. Are you ready?
I'm here, brother.
Sir.
How's it going?
Oh, very good in yourself. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom in like this. Now, what I'm gonna do, if you could give us the elevator pitch, hold on, because I'm gonna make sure my audio is good. Let me hear your audio for a second.
Sure. You hear me?
I think it's perfect. Chat, let me know if I'm too soft or too loud. Because for whatever reason, it sounds good to me, but there's always a few people in the chat who say I'm too loud or too soft. Will. You're not Will Chamberlain, and who is the Chamberlain Peace in Our Time guy? What was his first name?
Neville. That was
Neville. And you're not Neville. That was Chamberlain.
No relation. Thank God.
For those of us who don't know who you are, tell us who you are.
So I'm the former publisher of Human Events. I'm a lawyer by training. Former publisher of Human Events. Jack Posobiec, they're all still there, good friends. But most recently, I was working for the DeSantis campaign in June and July. And then I worked, after the layoffs that happened there, I worked at the executive office of the governor, so in his actual official office at the Capitol. And currently, I am senior counsel at the Article 3 Project and the Internet Accountability Project. Focus a lot on the Internet Accountability Project. Big tech has been a longer-term focus of mine in terms of fighting against censorship on social media platforms. So,
can I ask the indiscreet question how old you are? Because you look very young.
I'm 38.
38. Okay, you're a baby. No, I'm not trying to.
Right,
38.
I got a wife and a kid, man.
Only one kid?
Only one, yeah.
I say that the exponential difference is going from 2 to 3. 1 to 2, no big difference. 2 to 3, parents were outnumbered, and holy crab apples. Born and raised in Florida?
No, born and raised in California, and have moved around a lot as a result of. I went to law school in D.C., came back to California to work, went back to D.C. to work, moved down to Florida most recently. So I've been all over the place.
How many siblings do you have? I won't get too far into the family. Just I love.
Oh, sure. Just a younger sister.
And what do your parents do, or what did they do?
Oh, they're both retired. My mom was also a lawyer, although she left to be a stay-at-home mom when she met my dad. My dad did a variety of things. He was we lived in Silicon Valley. He was kind of a mid-level manager at Tandem Computers, which was bought out by Compaq, which was bought out by HP. And then most recently, he retired from his second career doing complex tax work.
So now I think people in the crowd might be suspecting you're either a closet Democrat or a CIA asset. You go from California to D.C. to study law.
Yeah, I got into Georgetown. So
Georgetown, okay.
Like the right thing to do.
Did you practice law after your degree?
Yep. I practiced complex commercial litigation at Quinn Emanuel in Los Angeles. And then I did nonprofit class action work at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, where we fought against, we objected to unfair class action settlements. I can go into detail on that if you want to know how much time we have.
Well, we got. I say typically. I mean, if you got an hour and a half, we got an hour and a half. But
sure. This
is kind of interesting. So go in. You got to make people like you before they decide they hate you for the DeSantis stuff. So.
Oh, right. Okay. So anyway, well, Quinn Emanuel is like a big litigation firm that had a lot of interesting cases. Like, oddly enough, I turned down the opportunity to represent, for example, Bill Cosby, who we were representing in a defamation case. I had a client briefly that was on Dirty Money, Netflix's Dirty Money. I saw that later. So we had interesting, both plaintiff and defense side type work, and some white collar criminal defense, which is like the Dirty Money type stuff, and other and also just normal kind of civil business litigation. And then when I was at Competitive Enterprise Institute, what we were doing was we were objecting to unfair class action settlements. So if you ever get, one of those cards in the mail that gives you like a $5 or less coupon that you say you get out of a settlement, well, that's the product of a class action lawsuit. And unlike you, who's getting just a coupon, the lawyers are often getting millions of real dollars, not just a coupon that you can use to buy something from the company that wronged you. So we would go in and object to those settlements and try and make it a little bit fairer and ensure that, the problem in those settlements is that there's this, kind of conflict of interest that the plaintiff's lawyers has. They have an incentive to maximize the amount of returns they get in terms of their fees that they're given to them by the court, while not really caring that much about how much the class members, get, because who cares? It's coupons, or who cares? It's a small amount of money. And you're also not their client, right? Like they might have one single client who's the lead plaintiff, but you, just the random class member who's not a part of the lawsuit officially, you're not their client. So there's a lot of tension there in terms of how that lawyer negotiates with the defendants. And so we were doing work to ensure that things were fair. And I'm pretty proud of that work. And it still goes on.
You say not for profit. Who do you go? I mean, who is your? You have to have standing. You have to have somebody who's your client. Who goes in and says, "I object to this"? It's one of the people who gets a $5 coupon and says,
"Exactly."
What the hell is this?
It's an unnamed class member, and so these class action lawsuits can have millions of people in the class, right? Like if you purchased, or a good example would be there was a false advertising claim about a particular olive oil that it said it was made in Italy, but in reality it used Greek grapes or Greek olives. Sorry. Well, if you bought that olive oil, you're a class member in the relevant time period. So if we find, if we see a class action settlement that looks off, we would solicit for anybody who is actually a member of the class and doesn't mind, being a unnamed class member and the named objector to the settlement.
But Barnes and I, we just covered one relatively recently. I forget the details. I think it was a credit card class action, and they were offering coupons. And the question was whether or not, I forget the details of it. But anyways, we've talked about this. It's interesting because some of these things, you get a notice in the mail, you're not aware of it. The lawyers are settling for millions for legal fees, and then dividing up coupons, or actually no compensation for the members of the class. Now, someone said, I don't know if someone knows something that I don't know. Jesuit's going to Jesuit. You're not a religious person, are you?
I'm not Catholic.
Okay, I say sometimes the chat knows.
Jesuit. I'm not Catholic.
So
I'm not even religious, man. Like I don't know where people. I get this sometimes. People assume like this is a random story. Bethany Mandel or the Mandel family. Like they invited us over for Shabbat dinner, and they assumed I was Catholic for some reason. I'm like, my mom's Jewish. My dad's Christian. I'm non-religious. Like,
dude, I totally assumed you were the furthest thing from Jewish that I could imagine.
Yeah, most people don't see it coming. That's true. I don't really look Jewish.
How tall are you?
6'2".
Yeah, you see, it's. I knew you were. You could tell by the good deep voice that you're a tall person. 6'2", Chamberlain. I wouldn't have seen that coming.
Yeah.
Okay, so how long did you practice for?
I didn't practice for all that long, honestly. I practiced for like a little less than 2 years before I decided to kind of move into politics. So,
all right. And then how does that transition work? What year was this? And
this was like 2017. So 2017, I moved to DC in March to take the job at the nonprofit. But then I was also getting, I was excited at Donald Trump winning in 2016 and wanted to come to DC and, because I was one of the only people in my social circle I knew that voted for Trump. I was doing big law. This is not a Trump-friendly environment in elite legal circles. Certainly not in 2016. So I was like, well, that means this is a good opportunity for me to come be a part of the movement. And so I came to DC. I knew Mike Cernovich, who I'm still friends with. And he was a very major Trump advocate at the time. And sort of got hooked into the people he knew in DC that were involved in pro-Trump activism. And so I met a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of friends. At the time, when I just started, I was doing cocktail hour type things, after work to try and meet people in the area and organize Trump supporters at the Trump Hotel in DC back when it was still the Trump. And then, once I got to that, I eventually decided to leave my job and try and do more politics stuff full time. And in 2019, I ended up buying Human Events, the rights to the intellectual property of Human Events with Raheem Kassam, or I'm sorry, I bought it. Let me put that clear. I bought it. Raheem was my partner at the time to try and and create a new magazine. And since then, it's been kind of like, what I was looking for is I didn't think we had a national review like on the populist side of the right. And I wanted to create Human Events to be that. That was my vision at the time.
Human Events, I know Posobiec is there. Human Events bought out, I want to say a Canadian outlet. I forget what it was.
Post Millennial. No, you're right. Human Events bought out Post Millennial, right? Like basically that at some point I brought in a business partner. And we had some editorial disagreements, and he was a much wealthier guy than I am, so it made sense for me to sell to him rather than the other way around. And so I sold my interest. And since then, he bought out Post Millennial, and so you have Human Events and Post Millennial under the same enterprise.
Okay, so you bought Human Events. How long were you involved with it for before you were bought out or sold out?
I want to say a full 2.5 years. It was finalized in 2022. Early 2022 is when the sale was finalized. So
all right, so you get into Human Events. I don't know what it was like back then because I don't think I was politically conscious at that time to the degree that I am now. But today it's amazing. Post Millennial does great work. Was it hard work getting that up and establishing a name and a brand for it?
It was challenging, and I'd never done news before. I came from the law, so I'm argue and debate. So I'm I'm an opinion editor type guy. That's primarily where I focused. And when Raheem and I separated pretty quickly after getting started, I kind of steered it towards focusing on opinion. You can read a lot of my old opinion pieces that I wrote there. They're still up. And I was just trying to do intellectually serious, but nationalist advocacy. I'm still very involved with, for example, the National Conservatism organization, and go to their conferences and speak, and I do their podcast every week. So yeah, I was looking to try and and a lot of it was because I felt like National Review did a terrible job. They just decided to go full on anti-Trump, and even after he was president, they were just obnoxious about it. And I thought there was a very intellectually serious case to be made for the Trump presidency and for the program that he was trying to implement through 2016 to 2020. And so I was really happy to see that the way he had kind of shifted the Republican Party too. That was a big thing. The Republican Party pre-Trump was terrible. It was just, neocon hawks, and it was just not nearly as good as it is now. So, and Trump gets a lot of credit for that, right? I see Trump as the catalyst to shifting the way the Republican Party, he made the Republican Party a lot better. That's what I think. Hold on. Okay. We're going to shift into the actual meat of this now. So what I'm going to do for those on YouTube, we're going to end this on YouTube and coming over to Rumble, because now it's going to be getting into what you did for Trump, or what you did supporting Trump and the transition to a very proactive pro DeSantis. We're going to get there. Okay. We're ending on YouTube, everybody. The link to Rumble is there, or actually I should say this. Hold on. You can all come over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com. We